school's over. It's not. It's on Campbell Lake. Just
I was going
overlooking
to
it.
say,
Yeah.
only a
Just
block
trying
or
to
two from Campbell Lake. Yeah.
only a block or two from Campbell Lake. It looks very nice, but really it's just out of control kudzu that I've not been able to stay on top of.
But it does look. Well, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, it's where all the raccoons get in. Honestly, like this is the only presentable part of my screened-in porch. Over here, there's like a whole board nailed up to keep them from peeling back the screen.
I was going to say it looks nice. I wasn't going to think a lake house. Well, maybe a lake house, but up the hill from the lake, like maybe in Benton County or Decatur County, somewhere around there.
I wouldn't. I don't think I'd last long out there or up there. I don't know. Those woods scare me, man. All right. So Father's Day yesterday. Did you have a good Father's Day, Brandon?
Yeah. The family got me had some nice gifts and some nice cards and stuff, and my 5-year-old daughter has continued to give me some more stuff that she made herself for me, which is nice. Actually, one of them sitting right next to me. So,
oh, look at that.
Yeah, and she's off camera, walking around embarrassed because I showed it on camera. My bad, Brindley.
She'll feel really bad when she knows it goes straight in the trash can. Once this.
Nah, I'm trying not to do that.
Okay, that's good.
And then I don't know if you saw. Are you friends with my wife on Facebook?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Did you see what she got me?
No. Wait, a giant remote control, right?
Giant remote control that is too big to get between the cushions of our couch because, not to get into a lot of details about my health, but I have been, let's just say I've started taking some pills for blood pressure in the last few months. And I really think a big part of that is how often I'm having to look for the remote control when I want to just sit down and watch college football or, an old rerun of The Office or Parks and Rec.
Yeah.
And so I haven't tried it out yet because as soon as I got the gifts, I got them at lunch yesterday. Then as soon as I got the gifts, I got on the road and went down to Alabama and saw my dad and spent a couple of hours, 3 hours or so, hanging out with him, watching baseball and just kind of talking, updating him on his grandkids, and got back up here. Hoping to get back in time to do this at the normal time that we do this on Sunday night, but appreciate you being flexible.
Yeah, I feel like since it's Father's Day, I guess dads should take priority over weekly podcasts, but to each their own. We had a good Father's Day as well. I got some new shoes, some On Clouds, which are apparently really nice because I think, honestly, it was kind of my daughter to get me those. I think she was thinking about me, but I think she was more thinking about herself because she was so embarrassed of the shoes that I would constantly wear around. And they're these all black netted Nikes that I had for basketball officiating years ago, and I just kept them. And there's a giant hole in the toe of the right shoe, but if you wear a black sock, you can't even see it. So for years, I've been like, my toe would be sticking out, but nobody would know unless I pointed. But Jordan knew, and she was painfully embarrassed. So I got new shoes.
So while we're on the subject of Father's Day and we're doing this podcast, I nearly put this in a post highlighting you and another friend that you don't know from 2 jobs ago down in Alabama, but you and just the commitment that, and anybody who watches this probably has a good idea about your story. And you've mentioned spending a lot of time in Texas, and you and I disagree on a lot politically, but I have nothing but admiration for the commitment you have shown over the last 18 years to your daughter and making sure to be present for her on a regular basis. So
you made me get emotional, Brandon, on the day after Father's Day.
Well, yeah. I mean, some of my conservative friends think you're an idiot, but your efforts in being a father is why I defend you to them. So
thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'm glad that those efforts paid off for my daughter and also to be defended against.
You have a conservative advocate in Jackson.
That's right. I need somebody advocating for me on my behalf. Right. Oh man. Well, thank you. But honestly, thank you for that. Father's Day is very special. It always has been. It's, even when Jordan was living in Texas, that was the one holiday that every single year, regardless, there was no alternating, right? In parenting plans for Father's Day. So it's always been a real special one. And obviously it's not my last one, but it is my last one with her as sort of like a kid because she goes to college in the fall. So, things will start to get a little different, but it was
Yeah.
good. It was a good Father's Day.
Yeah.
All right, kicking off last week's edition of the Jackson Post. We talked a little bit about the state games last week. You chided me for not staying updated on them, and then you gave a very good oral history of the state games. And so you attended opening ceremonies, which I think took place 2 Fridays ago at
Yeah,
Liberty.
I
Is that
guess like
correct?
10 days ago now that
Hmm.
it's Monday morning. Yeah, and it was a good event. I was kind of worried about them as far as the how the presentation and execution would go because if y'all may or may not remember, we had some storms rolling through the night before and that morning. And so the organizers went ahead and made the decision and sent out an email at like 5:45 that Friday morning. Hey, we're going to move it inside. It was supposed to be at the ballpark where the Rockabillies play, um, but they moved it across the road to Liberty Tech High School inside the gym. And there's a couple of photos in the paper. I put them out on social media that night of large screens, a nice podium, and then I think we did an adequate job last week making fun of the attire of our mayors as they were lighting the torch and the cauldron. Which I will say, William Still is the one who manufactured that cauldron for the games, and that's a quality cauldron right there. So
It looks good. I thought about that. Like that looks like a legitimate cauldron. You don't see a lot of legit cauldrons, I don't think. That's
not
a
around
legitimate
here.
cauldron. Not a lot of
Yeah,
cauldrons around West Tennessee.
there's not. I think the cauldron industry has kind of all but died out in the western portions of Tennessee. Um, maybe there's a few witches cauldrons still in
That's
business.
why I can't live in Benton County, in the woods of
Yeah,
Benton County.
I was going to
That's what I
say
was
some of the
talking about.
backwoods areas of the region,
Yeah.
maybe down around Mercer. But yeah, it was a nice event. I think they had a parade of athletes, and it was to be upfront about it, those athletes who paraded were mostly baseball teams because last week was the weekend where all the baseball and softball and pickleball tournaments happened. So you had all those athletes on hand for opening ceremonies. If anybody was coming in for this past weekend where that was frisbee or disc golf, 5Ks, trail, and road courses, even horseshoes, which I did not sign up for, unfortunately.
Lord have mercy. That's a lawsuit waiting to happen, I feel like.
They probably didn't come early for the opening ceremonies, but good planning on their part, having all the team sports the first weekend if they wanted all the athletes coming through.
Do they have the event Flonkerton? You got it. Okay, I just wanted to check.
Yeah, like there were so many, like as I'm watching the opening ceremonies and I'm seeing all these athletes come through, there were like so many references to that episode of The Office going through my mind, but I wasn't sure if anybody around me would have gotten them, so I didn't say anything.
I think with an Office reference, you just got to throw it out there as just like honestly a tester. And so if somebody takes it and they get it, then okay, I can be friends with this person. If they don't, then you strike them off the list.
I know Madison County Mayor A.J. Massey would have gotten them because we've done some Office joking before.
Mm-hmm.
But he was on the other end of the gym, so I couldn't.
Shout it out next time. Flonkerton.
Yeah.
Massey, Flonkerton.
During the concert from the University of Memphis Lambeth Ensemble group as they're singing it. Flonkerton.
See, you're doing perfect. All right,
Are the medals made out of yogurt lids?
But yeah, what's the budget here, right? Can we trim this from anything?
You're right.
I don't know. Okay, use yogurt lids instead of aluminum.
Right.
Sprinkle me sugar. This is the next story on the front page.
Mhm.
This is such a cool. I've only been there once, so obviously, like, Raina Schultz has done a great job with this. She's done a great job with social media. I've only had a macaroon once from Sweet for Me Sugar when it was down at the local,
Mhm.
but I I want to talk about two things. One, Raina's business on its own, obviously, but then also what the local has done, because this is
Mhm.
one more business that started down there and has now moved into a bigger space and even in a different part of town. Like, because that program is really doing, I think, what it was designed to do and more. But Sprinkle Me Sugar, I know you didn't have a chance to go to the opening, right, the
Mhm.
day of, because you had a lot of you had some water issues, right? You were caught in the rain.
Yeah, there were a bunch of stuff scheduled for downtown that day, and the stuff that did happen, I covered, like the March for Jesus, and God decided to bless the March for Jesus with a lot of rain, and I messaged Raina and I said, "Hey, I'm sorry. Out of respect for you, I'm going to miss your grand opening because that would be like dropping off a stray mutt dog at a Jackson Country Club banquet. So any photos that you get, I'll be glad to run with my story." So, and she was gracious enough to do that.
So did she? I guess she sent in some responses to questions, or
No, we did an
what
interview.
was? Oh, okay, okay.
I went and
So what
talked to her
was?
a few days before the previous week, and she kind of, I mean, we kind of did an interview when they unveiled the vending machine at Catbird Studio about a year, maybe a
Mhm.
little more than a year ago. Told the story then of how the business had gotten started up to that point. But I decided to kind of get back into that because I didn't get all the details about it. So she told me a few more of the details. And honestly, the plan for the story was to focus more on, you were in the local for 2 years. How much did that help you and set you up for success moving to the new place? But I realized there was more to the story of just simply the business of Sprinkle Me Sugar. So I said, okay, we're going to focus a little more on this, and probably later in the summer, I may talk to Beth Ann Simpson with Jackson Downtown Development, and maybe Lisa at the Co, just to
Mhm.
kind of talk about, all right, this is how the local works, since the Co and JDDC are the two entities that are over that.
So Raina said that she was already baking, right, in her home, and then
Hmm.
this business in particular kind of was inspired by a trip to Paris. Her and her husband.
Hmm.
Is that did I read that correctly?
Yeah, yeah. They were pregnant and they took a trip. Uh, she didn't come right out and say this, so if Raina sees this and I'm getting this totally wrong, then feel free to correct me, and I will come on here the next week and apologize. But I kind of took it as, we're pregnant, we're about to have a kid, or I think they wound up having twins. Let's take one more trip with it's just us, and then
That's what I
we'll
was
get
going to
in.
say.
Yeah. So before we do not have control over our schedules for the next 2 decades, and possibly plus. And so they did that, experienced the culture that is Paris, France, not Paris, Tennessee.
Unfortunately,
So there was not as much catfish involved as there would be had they gone to Henry County. But
you never know. I've heard catfish in Paris, France is amazing.
and it probably is. Well, I mean, the way Raina talks about the food there, it probably would be. But they just really enjoyed the culture and the experience of being there. And one of the things that she really wanted to recreate at their home in Nashville at the time was the I think they're pronounced macarons. Is it
Macar-
macaroons?
I always call them macaroons, but I'm from West Tennessee, so what do I know?
Yeah. Um, I think it's, or maybe it's macarons. Anyways, the pastries.
Mm.
Um, they she wanted to recreate them because everyone who sold them around Middle Tennessee when she got home were not nearly as good as France. So she wanted to try to recreate that or come as close to that as possible. Sorry, I got my daughter over here doing crafts, and I have no idea what she's up to. And um, so she said, I've always loved to bake, and I had gotten out of baking, but I took this opportunity to kind of get back into it, particularly after she had the kids, and um, she became a stay-at-home mom after that. So she was like, so in between feedings and changing and stuff, while the babies were down, I would work on baking, and she figured out how to make the pastries, and then she started experimenting with different flavors and flavor combinations and stuff, and um, and she started letting friends try them out, and that turned into people telling her they were willing to pay for them to use them for her for gift bags or whatever, and uh, with the highlight of that being that apparently Bob Dylan was doing business with one of her friends who was a liquor distributor, and he was starting a new brand of whiskey. So the liquor distributor, when they were getting ready to launch the brand, sent Bob a gift bag, and including those was some of Raina's pastries. And word on the street is that he thoroughly enjoyed them. And
should write a song about them.
I'm kind of surprised he hasn't yet. And macarons in the USA.
That's Bruce Springsteen.
Oh, yeah, I always get them mixed up.
I mean, they're sort of, Dylan paved the way. Springsteen followed up. He was his generation's Bob.
Yeah, man.
They're both still kicking though, man. That's all right. I would listen to Macaroons in the USA. Raina should actually consider changing the name of her store to that.
Seriously?
No. No. Maybe. You could get both crowds, right? Because like the right, they would think, oh yes, it's very patriotic. I'll buy a macaroon.
Yeah.
The left and the no, they know Born in the USA is sort of like a protest song in its own right, but it's written cleverly. So then they would be like, oh, she gets it. And they would go. Why am I not in promotion? That was perfect.
I honestly don't know why no one would want to try that strategy.
Macaroons in the USA. Was she a little bit nervous about leaving the local? Because obviously one part of that is that the overhead's a little bit lower. And she moved out to Van Drive, so now she's got a larger store, but obviously she probably has more traffic, so it's going to even out. But did she say anything about that, or?
Well, one of the aspects about the local is that you sign a 2-year lease, and you can't re-sign. It's like, hey, you got 2 years to operate with a low overhead, and then hopefully you've developed your product and developed a clientele that you can survive on your own, and you plant your business elsewhere. And so it didn't matter if she was nervous about it or not. it was time for her to get out. But no, she seemed really excited, and honestly, it's in a good location. Because I imagine that the northwest part of the county and a lot of people who are going to be going to the columns is probably there's probably going to be a lot of overlap with people who want to enjoy macarons, so she's right there, right next to Rock and Roll Sushi, across the street from Physicians Quality Care. She's in the old Jackson Nutrition location.
And, I didn't realize Jackson Nutrition was gone. Okay.
Honestly, I did not either until I went there for the interview. And because I was like, wow, this looks a lot like the inside of Jackson Nutrition. She said, yeah, it used to be until about February. I said, okay. But yeah, so she's got her nice setup there, her own bakery. And you can go in there today and see what kind of flavor combo she's got set up. And I've had a few samples of her work, and some of the flavors, I was like, I'm not sure I'm going to like this, but they weren't bad. They weren't bad at all.
Turned out pretty good. I need to go out there and check it out. So it's on Van Drive in the old Jackson Nutrition building, right across from Physicians Quality Care. Everybody should go out there and try a macaroon now that summer is officially here.
Yep.
I don't know. It seems like a summer. That seems like a summer dessert, just the colors and such. I guess it's year round, but you can make an argument for a summer dessert.
I'll be honest with you. I mean, they look like different colored Oreos, and I enjoy Oreos all year round. So I can see myself enjoying these all year round.
There you go. All right, Blue Creek Apartments under construction, and I was glad I finally found out what was going in this newly created space on North Royal, because the last few months, if I've been late to school and hadn't had time to fix my own breakfast, I would go to Dodge's on Royal, and I've been passing that open piece of land, and honestly, my first thought was, okay, like the gentrification of parts of town is now moving, over here. And I was actually pleasantly surprised to see that's not what this is at all, right? These are Blue Creek Apartments, under construction by Jackson Housing Authority. And I'm going to assume this is Tennessee Housing something.
THDA is Tennessee Housing Development Authority.
Okay. And I know there was, after the tornado in 2003, there was some new affordable housing put up kind of over there on Hayes Avenue, near Whitehall, I believe. And now this is going to go there. I mean, affordable housing, I believe, is shrinking a lot lately in Jackson, just with home prices and real estate value going up. I think that's one of those topics where it depends on what side of that you're on. It can be a good thing. For some people, it's not a great thing. But providing affordable options is good. So what can you tell us about what these apartments will be, who they'll be targeting, and what are the qualifications of them?
Yeah, so in the spot that you've seen, that's right there on the corner of, is it King and Preston? And I think it actually goes all the way to the corner of Allen, not King, Preston and Hayes. And I think it goes all the way to the corner of Allen and Hayes. They have already cleared the land and done the infrastructural work underground to put Blue Creek Apartments there. And it's going to be multiple story of apartments for affordable housing, where people who are not quite on the streets, maybe have been on the streets, but are working their way back, but they can't afford $1,200 a month for a half a bedroom and half a bathroom. Brinley, stop. Thank you. Sorry. She's in here doing a musical performance in the living room. But so they got the apartments on that spot. Meanwhile, at Allenton Heights, which is 2 blocks away from here up Allen Avenue, literally right across the road from Old Madison / Jackson High School, Allenton Heights is about to come down later this year. Once all the families get moved out, and talking with Mark Reed this past week at another JHA event that will be in this coming week's paper, he said we've got about 30 more units that the families need to be cleared out. And I think he's hoping to have them all out by the end of the summer, possibly. I want to say by the end of June, but if I'm wrong on that, it would at least be by the end of the summer, and then they'd have the rest of the year to get that. And they are planning by the end of 2025 to have them torn down. And in that space there is going to be Blue Creek cottages. So it'll be a little bit nicer, more spaced out type dwelling places there. That is still under the authority of Jackson Housing Authority. So it'll still be not as expensive as it could be. So it's manageable as these people are working their way to get back on their feet. And this is designed to be temporary housing, kind of like the local was designed to be temporary housing for businesses. This is designed to be temporary housing for families, so that when they can work themselves to a point where they can afford $1,500 for 2 or 3 bedrooms, depending on how big the family is. But until they get to that point, JHA is stepping in saying, hey, you can live here.
That's great. I really think that's the way to do this. I think and I don't know what parameters are in place or if there are zoning issues, and we had planned for this, but I do feel like with Hub City Central coming in, I do feel like the land around that was primed to be, I'm going to say, developed by maybe a private company, and
Hmm.
so I'm glad that that's not happening. At least in these two spaces, like there's still a space for people in affordable housing. And I'm not a city planner at all, but I do think intentionality is important. And so if you can have affordable housing options interspersed with, right,
Hmm.
high to middle income level people, I think that's probably the way things should run. I know Boston did that. The city of Boston did that maybe 20 years ago, and it's to avoid gentrification and like basically mass movements of people who get priced out of their neighborhoods
Hmm.
just because property taxes go up or value goes up because of people coming in buying property for really low and then fixing it up and selling it for much higher, and eventually people do get priced out of neighborhoods. So I'm glad to see this is not one of those situations, and there are affordable housing options for people in East Jackson.
Hmm.
And that's cool about the cottages too, as well. Like with Allenton Heights has been there for a long time. I mean, I can remember that when I was in high school going to
I want to
JC.
say they've been there for 50 years, maybe.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, it's time. It's time. So good for them for providing another option.
Yeah.
Um, all right, Ann Keel is, if I said her name right, I
Kale.
believe I did. Kale. Ann Kale is back in private Catholic school administration. This time at St. Mary's from Sacred Heart. Do you have a chance to talk to Ann? Is she pretty excited about this? You knew her obviously from Sacred Heart days, correct?
Yeah, I knew her from Sacred Heart. And right before I left my former employer, she actually left Sacred Heart to go work for Dynamics Physical Therapy as a like recruiter. Um,
Okay.
uh, and and just talking to her last weekend when I heard about it. Um, we talked about it, and she said, I really enjoyed working at Dynamics, but at the same time, I really miss being in education. And she said she felt like it was a divine calling to get back into education. So she started praying about it, her and her husband. And she said, if this is from you, um, you being God, open a door. And it just so happened that her middle school that she attended as she was growing up, and that her kids attended when they were younger, they're now in high school and college now, needed a principal. And actually some of the people in the St. Mary's community had actually reached out to her to see if she would be interested and willing to get back into education. And so within the span of just a few weeks, they were able to get from we're praying about an opportunity to we're sending out a press release announcing her new job. So congratulations to her. And I know with her experience and her passion for a good quality Catholic education here in Jackson, that that she'll dive into that headlong this year and bring a lot to that school.
Everybody that has worked for her that I know, like, speaks so highly of her. They loved working for her. I have not heard one person uh, say something negative about Ann Kale. I've never met her, but it's rare that you hear such universal praise all the way around for somebody, and that's how she is. Staying on the education front, there's a leaders credit union event, and I'm not going to get into this because I don't know how these people were chosen or anything like that. I do just want
Right.
to name them. Caroline Yarbrough, who is a high school counselor at Early College High, Meredith Key, Dr. Christy Hodges Johnson. I'm going to mispronounce this name, so please correct me. George Pingen. Um,
I think that's how you pronounce it.
Okay, look at me. And then Dr. Ken Newman. So I only know two of these five on a personal level. Um, and I don't really know. I just remember officiating Caroline when she was in high school at JCS playing ball. And then I will see her at sporting events at JCM because we sort of our schools tag team those events together.
Yeah.
And then of course Dr. Ken Newman. I could say so many wonderful things about him. He, along with Ann Cale, has also been universally praised by everyone that I've ever spoken with.
Mhm.
And on a personal note, he inspired me to be a teacher, like easily. Like he is the most influential person in my professional career.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much you have to say about this and what this event is, other than leaders just giving a shout out to educators.
Well, I will say Leaders Credit Union has a foundation that is strictly for educational purposes, and they're giving grants to teachers and classrooms. And on an annual basis, they've been doing that for, I want to say they started it before the pandemic. So they are one. I mean, Leaders is a great corporate partner in Jackson, just being involved in a lot of stuff, helping fund a lot of stuff. But when it comes to education, whether it's private or public, they are active in helping that as well. And and they've got a new fundraiser that's coming up in August, where the five people that you just mentioned will be honored. They also have a speaker who I think he's from the Dave Ramsey group coming to speak as well. I think it's going to be at the Civic Center. And so, yeah, hopefully that'll be a good beneficial night for them.
Awesome. That's awesome. Maybe they'll pick me next year for this award. No. Okay, probably not. That's fine. All right, let's move on to sports. Two pretty big stories. The first one, let's start with, let's just clear up about JCM's Hub City Central's track and field facility. Okay, because I remember a couple weeks ago, there were some comments on social media by people who didn't bother reading the article. There were some assumptions thrown out, rumors, none which seemed to be true. So let's see, like, what's the real deal? What is this track and field facility going to have? What's it not going to have? Is there a timeline when it's going to be ready? What are the details you got?
All right. So, one, the last question that you asked, is there a timeline when it's going to be ready? Unless something massive happens in the next few months, and when I say something massive, God forbid, knock on wood, my dining room table is wood, unless an F5 tornado just drops down in the middle of East Jackson in the next few months, this track will be open in time for high school track season next spring.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Very nice.
I mean, the football stadium is going to be open. They're hoping by at least October. They're still cautiously hopeful about mid-August for the first home game, but that's still a long shot. So don't anybody listen to this and be like, "Oh, Brandon said." No, I did not say that. So stop. Anyways, so yeah, next spring is when they're planning on it being open. The track will have 8 lanes. Whoever designed Liberty Tech High School's track apparently didn't realize that 8 lanes was a requirement for them to host official track meets. They only have 6, and so apparently there's rumors going around in the comments section of the Jackson Sun's Facebook or Jackson Post's Facebook post. It happens about once every 3 months, so I just move on, and that's what we're going to do now. Where on stories where it talks about there will be an 8-lane track where people will comment, "Oh, I heard from a good source that there's only 6 lanes on the track." Okay, that source may be good, but it's not accurate. That this track will have 8 lanes. It'll have 8 lanes on each end of the football stadium that will be covered in turf. On each end behind the goalpost will be all the jumping facilities, triple jump, long jump, high jump, and the steeplechase, which isn't even a TSSAA event. Steeplechase.
I don't even know what that is.
I thought it was a horse thing, but apparently humans can do it too.
Hurdles?
When I actually looked it up, no, hurdles are done on the track, but there is something that you jump over, and I think there's water involved or something. I don't know. Like, it's not even TSSAA, so I didn't look into it that hard yet. I'll write about it later.
Sounds made up.
There will be a pole vault pit which will be the only one between Shelby County and the Tennessee River. USJ don't have one. Dyersburg don't have one. Union City don't have one. And all three of those places can host official track meets. None of them have a pole vault pit.
Wow. Did I read somewhere, I think here in the Jackson Post, actually, maybe it was an op-ed column you wrote or something, where we had a student from Madison a couple of years ago who was in pole vaulting, and he had to travel to Memphis to practice before going to state because he had nowhere to practice. Is that right?
Yeah, he wasn't the only pole vaulter from Madison. I think they had like 3 or 4. But Madison's booster club for their track and field program would have to pay, and I think it's a pole vault pit. It's either at a private athletic training facility or maybe at one of the private schools, but they had to pay a fee. And these athletes would go down, I think, once a month for 3 or 4 months each year to kind of get their timing down, get their positioning down with the pole and vaulting and all this stuff. So they only had a limited number of times where they could actually practice before getting to spring fling in Murfreesboro. Well, now there's five or six high schools who are going to have a track and field team that if any of those athletes want to do pole vaulting, they can do that now and have access on a weekly basis to a facility right here in good old Jackson, Tennessee.
It's going to be incredible. I mean, obviously, we've beaten a dead horse about how long it's taken, but it looks like we have rounded the bend now and we're in the final stages of everything. And like every day I pass it, it's like something else has been added. Like it's almost like seeing a city skyline being built. Like from where I am at JCM, if I have to go outside to do something or walk from a different part, I can see now the stands, and then of course they got to put in lights at some point. So it's just going to change the entire area of that part of the city.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. And then on top of all that, probably by the ROTC building where the football team used to practice is going to be all the throwing events. Discus and shot put are both TSSAA events, but they will also have the stuff needed for javelin and hammer throw, which are college events. And that shows that there's a commitment there to being able to host some college track meets. Like if Lane wants to host the SEAC championship track meet, they can do that.
That'd be huge. Yeah, I think it's a big deal. I think people are underestimating what this is going to do collectively for the community even. Staying with athletics in JMCSS, nice story about Commissioner Olivia Abernathy is going to be coaching Madison's volleyball team.
Finally, someone to fight for Madison's athletes.
No. There's already another commissioner who's doing that, Brandon, and he's been doing that. Okay, and there's no article about him in this paper.
I wrote about him when he was coaching soccer for a private school a couple years ago.
Okay. Yeah, he was fighting. He's always fighting, right?
Yeah,
fighting for that soccer team he coached, and now he's fighting for Madison athletes.
There you go.
Anyway, Abernathy played college volleyball at Union, which I think she made a post on social media saying that not a lot of people knew that, which I don't think I've known that because I've known her for a while, but upon meeting her, I did not realize that's why she came to Union, is to play volleyball. So what does she have to say about coaching? Because, coaching is a lot different than playing. Do you have any thoughts about what it's going to be like to coach a high school volleyball program like Madison's?
Yeah, I mean, and I asked her, I said, you're so busy with your day job in county commissioning and being a wife and mom of 2 and all this different stuff. She's active at her kids' schools as well. I said, have you even had a chance to watch Madison volleyball to have an idea of what you're getting into? And she said that she had some friends' daughters played on Madison's team last year, so she went and watched a few games last year, so she has an idea. She said really impressed with the athletes that they have and the teams that they were playing against. And she said she really loves the sport, and she has actually played some after she had to retire from the sport officially after her sophomore year, which, by the way, during the interview, we figured out my first year here as a sports editor for The Sun, I covered a few Union volleyball games that year. So I covered her, some games she played in. Yeah. And But she played some intramurals her last couple of years at Union, and apparently there's a semi sort of adult league volleyball at Northside that she has spent some time playing with as well. So she hadn't been totally away from the sport, and she's excited about getting in there. She's got Catherine Korth from the central office, who's going to be her assistant coach, and she's looking forward to the opportunity. If you know Olivia, you know that she was not a middle blocker up front at the net when she played. She was a defensive specialist and libero. And she said, I think that's actually going to be in my favor because Madison's team coming back next year, there's not a lot of hype on the team. So she feels like that she said, if we can have a lockdown defense, and you don't necessarily have to have a bunch, 2 or 3 6'8" girls with long arms to have a lockdown defense. They definitely help. But she said, I feel like if we have a lockdown defense, we're going to give ourselves a chance to win a few games and really compete and have fun doing it. So she's looking forward to the opportunity.
Good. It's going to be great. I think anybody who is, how can I phrase this? Anyone who's not already involved in the school system, I love the fact that community members are getting involved in positive ways like this, because I think it helps the kids to see adults outside of their school investing in them. But then on the flip side of that, it allows people to really see and get to know kids in the school district who may only see the bad headlines sometimes, I guess is what I'm saying. So yeah, this is good. This is a win-win for both. All right, as we kind of wrap it up, Brandon, I'm going to kind of saved I won't say the best for last, but your column about your dad was really good, and I think it's you and I are roughly the same age, and I don't know about you, but I've noticed obviously mid-40s is an interesting time because your parents are getting older, your kids are getting older, and I think I've found a lot more value in the time that I spend now, maybe with my parents, than I did before. So how was it writing this column? Are you sort of like seeing some of those things? Like obviously you probably view your dad in a different way now as a 40-something-year-old man than you did even as somebody in your 20s or, for sure as growing up. But what was it like writing that column? It's something that you just always think about, and you just felt like this is the right time to write it because of Father's Day? Do you do a Father's Day column every year?
No, I don't. Last year, I think I was going to, and I think a couple of people had written some Father's Day stuff. So I said, okay, I'll take a risk and not beat that horse. Continue to beat that this year. But then this year, nobody sent anything. And I said, well, we're not going to just totally ignore the holiday. So I sat down and just started writing about my dad at like 4:00 in the morning one day. And it was one of those it was easy to get stuff out through my fingers. It was hard to kind of organize it because, I had 44 years of research to pack within a half page of newsprint. And, but yeah, it was good. And you're right. I mean, I view my dad a whole lot differently now than even before I got kids 11 years ago. And definitely, Wednesday will be the 3-year anniversary of when my mother passed, about a month after they celebrated their 50th anniversary, and kind of seeing him go through this period of life. And he's 78 now. I've learned and gained